The more emotional you are, the more susceptible and suggestible you are to perceived authority. The more famous a subject matter expert is in a specific field, the less reliable their information. 85 to 90% of the population never thinks critically. And approximately 20% of the population make their decisions solely based on consensus and peer pressure.
Where are we going to go today? I love this
Hey,
topic.
I just so the audience knows, I know I have a very colorful and interesting, diverse background,
That's one
but
way.
I also have a background in mass communication.
Mm,
I was in Hollywood for 10 years and I did stuff. Let's just put it
yeah.
that way. I did stuff.
Yes.
And and I thought it would be good to talk with people, our audience, about how to protect their mind,
Nice. I like that.
how to defend their mind
Yeah.
from methods of mass manipulation. These manipulation techniques, and I'm just going to give like some of the most common basic ones.
Mm,
That gets actually, it's very sophisticated. When you know how to recognize it, you'll see it everywhere you go. And
yeah.
yeah, and many times it's subliminal too. But we won't talk. We'll talk a little bit about that, but not too much at the end. But I wanted to talk about what people can look for, and I'll give what the layman term is. I'll give the formal term for what it is. I'll give some main points, and then I want to give the antidote.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So how we can create a barrier for our mind, because these manipulation techniques are very effective,
Yeah.
and it leads to our the formation of our beliefs, and it leads to our decision making. And
Hmm.
the decisions that we make in reaction to or response to these different types of manipulation techniques can actually be very dangerous in
Mm,
many ways. And I'm
yeah.
talking about it can be very dangerous physically too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I thought it would be really important. You listen, Kevin and I don't just talk about your typical self-defense. We want to talk about, right, mentally, emotionally, behaviorally, culturally,
Yes.
financially, right? We want to talk to you about how you can defend yourself in many ways, and knowing how to defend your mind against this mass manipulation is important. And by the
Mm,
way, I would just say, if for those of you watching, if you've been seeing this or just intuiting this mass manipulation that's happening all around us at an unprecedented level, leave a comment below. Like, let us know what you've been seeing. And I want to know, like, as I point these different methods out, let me know which ones that you've been identifying. And I think you're gonna see most of them. I'm really curious if Kevin's okay with that.
yeah. Well, I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, as you and I both know, have been something pretty crazy to experience as a society. And when we have complete segregation and there's two sides, that's part of the whole thing. And I think from a self-defense point of view, you know, there were some pretty scary times. Like, I don't know about you down in the States and, what kind of state that you live in, but where I was, like, there was crazy segregation enough that people were actually very concerned about physically what would happen to them. I had friends
Kevin,
that had life threats and
Kevin,
nuts.
I live in Minneapolis.
I
I
know.
live I live at ground zero, bro.
Yeah,
Like my city, like uh, uh,
got
did
destroyed.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it hasn't recovered,
yeah,
So um yeah,
yeah.
saw a little bit. Little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Just a little bit of that going on up in here. All right, so here's the first one.
Okay.
Check this out. Sustained, mysterious, and ambiguous events.
Hmm. Isn't that relevant?
Sustained,
Last,
mysterious, and ambiguous events.
yes.
So the formal term for that is called the ambiguity effect. What could we be talking about?
I don't know.
What could be happening in the news right now that is a sustained, mysterious, and ambiguous event that leads us to the ambiguity effect? And then here's how it goes. Keeping people in the dark to trigger fear and speculation.
Yes.
So here we go. Events unfold with incomplete, contradictory, or vague information.
Wow.
The mystery causes the public to speculate wildly, keeping attention fixated on the story. Gee, I wonder what that could be right now. Isn't
Well,
it just so weird?
I mean, you can go back 30, 40 years and you can start putting things together with this information. Real quick, like, are you reading out of a textbook or are these your notes from a textbook from your training? Like, I know
Yeah,
you can't answer everything, but
yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, this is formal.
Yeah.
This is formal stuff here. Like I'm not Kevin knows
Yeah.
I I don't just make stuff up. Like this is formal stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
So that's pretty poignant, I would say.
I think that one's pretty easy for everybody to understand. I mean, it makes sense. It's yeah, as long as you're not asleep, right?
Well, might be part of our conversation. Like the point is to kind of wake people up who might not be as awake as they maybe would want to be if they're curious about waking up. But here's the antidote to it.
Okay.
We counter the ambiguity with independent research.
Mm,
The formal term is critical information analysis,
yeah.
digging for facts instead of accepting the mystery.
Mm, mm,
So we seek primary sources and we verify claims from multiple independent perspectives. Multiple independent perspectives. Like my wife gets so annoyed with me whenever she says, "Hey, did you hear this? Did you hear that?" And I always ask her, "What's the source?"
yeah. Yeah.
What's the source? We'll get into more of that later.
Yeah.
Avoid speculation and look for patterns of missing or contradictory information. Man, is
Correct.
that happening right now?
Yeah, well, I think that's what they want to do, right? Is the more confused that the masses are, the better the chances of having this. I mean, the introduction of AI alone, like people can, it used to be like, do you see to believe or do you believe to see? And nowadays, you can't even
Yeah.
trust what you see. Like my
No,
mom
you
sent
can't.
me this, oh, what was it? It was something crazy, right? And I was like, Mom, that's AI. And she's like,
Yeah.
how do you know? I was like, you know how those scammers text you and they almost get past you? This is a perfect example of what AI can do visually. And she's like, that's insane. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
Like I've trained myself to look for little things and then to go back and research where did that come from? And okay, this website I can't trust, or this I can, or this here. And it's like, I don't trust anything anymore, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Right. It's crazy. So then the last one is focus on hard evidence over emotional reactions
Yeah.
or dramatic narratives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what we got to do, right? We
Make-
want to focus on hard evidence over emotional reactions or dramatic evidence. Now, it just gets so wild. That's part of the reason why I want to do this because things are just going to continue to get, I'm pretty confident, are going to continue to get more and more confusing. I think
Mhm.
we're reaching a really this crescendo of just mass confusion,
Yes.
right? Don't trust your own eyes, but trust your own eyes, right? All like this, it becomes like it's intentionally a house of mirrors.
Yeah.
And sometime I think we can like maybe, dive into that maybe a little bit more, but I think the anybody who's still watching is intuiting that,
Yeah.
right? It's this house of mirrors with a bunch of smoke in it, right, and all this disinformation and misinformation that's happening all around us. So like, what do you know? How do you know what to believe?
Yeah.
And so we need to know how to look for verifiable information, and hopefully some of this information will help you learn to recognize what is actually verifiable.
Whoa! Boom! The self-defense industry is broken, wouldn't you agree? Have you gone from martial art to martial art looking for the responses that you need to have for a self-defense situation? Well, I spent 35 years training in martial arts. I acquired 7 different black belts to find out that when I pressure tested their shit, it didn't work. So what did I do? I had to come up with my own system. Make sure to check it out at budobrothers.com. Build the confidence you need to stay safe.
The next one, heavy emotional manipulation. The formal term is emotional priming, pulling at heartstrings or sparking outrage to bypass logic. So the most important part there is to bypass logic. What happens when you are what's called an emotional hijacking or a neurological hijacking is when the emotional part of the brain is driving your decision making and driving your perceptions, the cortical thinking logical layer of your brain is far less active or it's inactive. And
Yeah.
so you're perceiving everything through the distorted lens of emotion. Right? That's why I always say it may be a fact that you feel a certain way, but your feeling is not a fact.
Yes.
And so I'm not saying that we shouldn't have feelings or that we shouldn't have emotions. We should, but we need to know how to separate our feelings from the facts,
Yes.
how to separate our emotions from the facts, and how to keep ourselves calm
Yes.
so that we can look at things objectively. Because the more emotional you are, the more susceptible and suggestible you are to perceived authority. Do you see what I'm saying?
For sure. And I
No,
mean, in the self-defense world, it's the same idea, right? Is if they
totally.
elicit an emotional reaction out of you and you respond to that and you're not able to stay calm, they're going to smash you in the face. They're going to sucker punch you
Yeah,
because they're
it's all about
trying to trigger you.
it's all about self-regulation. So here are some bullet points. The focus is placed on emotions, fear, anger, or sympathy rather than the facts or content.
Mm,
Images, phrases, or stories are carefully selected to evoke a strong emotional response. And there's other things too called cinematic language and music and all kinds of other stuff in this framing.
yeah.
Emotional manipulation decreases critical analysis and increases public compliance.
Mm,
So the antidote, manage emotional responses with logic and data. The formal term is cognitive reframing. The layman's term is think with your head, not just your heart.
mm,
Pause and identify when your emotions are being triggered, fear, anger, empathy. First, you have to be able to identify what emotion you're experiencing.
yes.
Shift focus from emotional stories to logical questions. What are
Yeah.
the facts? Who benefits from this? Use data, timelines, and objective reasoning to reevaluate claims rather than feelings.
So would you say, like, from a clinical psychology point of view, that they're basically just tapping into like a child-based ego, right?
Yeah,
And they're
yeah,
trying to trigger that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're tapping into. That's why fairy tales are so powerful,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? It's tapping into this childlike reality,
Hmm.
and it's very it's a lens that is very sloppy and inaccurate. That's
Yeah.
why Kevin and I are so annoying to so many people because we're, especially in the martial arts and self-defense world, we're like, just the facts, man. Like we're like
Yeah.
we're just all about the facts. What are the data? Like what's the verifiable evidence here? And it's the same. And I strongly suggest like really lean if you're watching this, really lean into that part of your mind and really develop that. Like stay super objective and as you move forward. And this is going to help your decision making because things are going to get really wonky.
Yeah.
The next one, simplified, repeated narratives. All right, the formal term, message discipline, narrative consistency. We've seen it, we've experienced it where people will like who are mouthpieces, we'll just put it that way,
Nice.
will really dig in to maintain consistency with their narrative no matter what.
Yeah.
Here we
Or I
go.
go from this channel to this channel to this channel to this channel to this one, and they're all repeating the same sentence again and again.
Yeah, so telling the same story over and over again until it sticks. This is called the law of repetition.
Mm,
It's how we become successful at things when we're bombarded with the same messaging over and over and over again, even if there's a slight variation or very clever covert variations in that messaging, right?
yeah.
An implied suggestion to the message is actually more powerful than a direct suggestion, just so you know. Simplified language and messaging reduce complexity and make the narrative digestible.
Mm,
Repetition reinforces belief and discourages alternative viewpoints.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. When I turned off my TV and stopped paying for cable, probably, I don't know, 15 years ago now, if not longer, a lot changed.
My wife and I, Marissa and I, have not watched TV in 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's 20. I haven't watched TV since '05.
Wow. Yeah.
19 years. Yeah. The antidote, challenge repeated narratives by asking questions. The formal term for this is Socratic questioning or the Socratic method. If everyone is saying it, ask why. Does that sound familiar? Right?
Yes.
Ask who is saying this? Why are they saying it?
Mm,
What evidence supports this version? Look
mm,
for alternative perspectives or information being ignored or suppressed. Be
yeah.
cautious of narratives repeated without variation. Truth often includes complexity.
Mm,
Isn't that interesting?
yes. That's a tough one, right? Because that can go both ways, right? If one side is pushing this and the other side is pushing this, can you find a balance in the middle somewhere? That's what I always challenge is don't just go straight to the other side. Do it on both sides. Question everything.
I like to challenge my own theory.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to challenge my own thesis or my own findings. Like you look at it from multiple points of view and challenge it from like take the scientific model, scientific method and apply it to, everything that we do. Not
Like
everything. We
old
don't have to
science
be
or
we don't have
20?
to be robots. We don't have to
Yeah.
be Spock. We don't have to be without feeling or opinions or flavor.
Yeah.
It's just that, it's important that we're getting to the bottom of things to the best of our ability right now.
Yeah.
Um, so the next one,
Yeah.
the use of authorities and experts.
Mm,
The formal term is appeal to authority, rolling out experts to make the story seem legit. Authority figures, government officials, scientists, academics are cited to lead credibility. Experts often reinforce the same pre approved narrative. The public is less likely to question an official stance delivered by respected figures.
mm, mm.
I'd say they're perceived authority. Like for me, like while sometimes I'll still slip up and use the word expert,
Yeah.
like for me over the last 5 years, that word means absolutely nothing. Or even someone who's rolled out as a perceived expert,
Yeah.
that means in many cases, it almost means the opposite to me.
Yeah.
It's probably closer to the truth for me to believe the exact opposite of what they're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's who's labeling them as an expert. Like you're an expert witness, right? Or an expert in the self-defense world or force science or whatever, all these different terminology. And it's like, who gave you that? Right. And I know one of the things that got to me like that I try to say is I'm a professional at what I do because I get paid for it. That's it.
Yeah. That for those of you at home, you might find it interesting if you're into this stuff. There's a several conformity experiments, the conformity of psychology, the psychology of conformity, and one
Yeah.
of the most famous ones is the Milgram experiment.
Yeah. That was
Now, we
so,
won't go down that rabbit hole right now,
check
but
it
you
out
can look
though.
right on YouTube. You can look it up, and
Yeah.
it's really shocking just how eagerly people will conform to a perceived authority
Yes.
and how far they'll go for things that they're told to do by perceived authorities. And the more that we can be aware of how conformity, the psychology of conformity, how it works, the better off we'll all be, especially in the martial arts, self-defense, firearms world. Man, you want to talk about conformity. That's why I'm a not such a nonconformist, and why my favorite Bible verse is actually Romans 12:2, when it says, "Do not conform to the patterns of the world, but instead be transformed by the renewing of your mind."
Hmm. Cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Deep shit from
Um,
2000 years ago.
Man, this isn't nothing new.
Yeah.
It's just in overdrive right
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So verify the antidote, verify authority claims through evidence. I mean, and Kevin and I brought up in the last episode, I think, that there are some really big names in the firearms and self-defense world to have all of these titles and amazing authority, right? And they've been totally and completely full of shit. And it's coming out that they're absolute fucking frauds.
Yep.
And someone that I know has been shining a light on them as being full of shit and frauds for a very long time. And I'm the bad guy. And what do you know? Huh? What do you know?
But
Isn't it amazing?
yeah.
So
Well,
it's called
I
it's called eminence, right? So I always say evidence over eminence.
yeah.
And when anybody is really pushing their eminence, they're pushing their status or their title or their authority, that is a big sign that you should automatically be skeptical with everything.
Yeah. Well, I just watched the Andrew Schultz and 50 Cent thing, and he's going through and he's just like, "How did you know about Diddy?" And just had to sit back for so long. He's like, "I was called crazy, I was called this, I was called back," and he's like, "And I just had to sit back and wait until all of this came out now." Right?
Dude, story, hey, if you look up the story of my life, that's what you'll see.
Yeah. So
My
true.
whole
You're
life,
the
that's what
white
it's been.
50 Cent.
Dude, I have exposed some big people, bro. I've made
Yeah.
documentaries that expose big names.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein being one of them.
Right?
20 years before it all came out. Like,
Yeah.
how do you like me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why I know how this stuff works,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So because I'm an expert.
Yeah. Well, in case you can't tell, he's reading. Like, come on, guys. Like, it's yeah. Yeah.
Right? I'm not just pulling it out, like I'm reading
Yeah.
how the actual stuff. So verify authority claims through evidence. So evidence over eminence. That's how I like to put it. Formal
Nice.
term. Evidence-based authority evaluation. Trust but verify no matter the title. Let me say that again.
Nice.
Trust but verify no matter the title. I don't even trust. Okay. I just let's verify that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because maybe that certain someone that I was talking about and pointing and shining a light on in our industry for many years, I wanted to put out a meme like with him claiming that he was shooting stuff out of the sky that we're all experiencing right now. Like he's got all the answers, got it all figured out. Don't worry, I got this. I'm gonna shoot him out of the sky. I'm your guy. I'm your hero.
Yeah.
You know, I got my Daisy Red Rider here. I got a slingshot. I'll just,
Yeah, it's easy.
Jeez.
Yeah, they haven't thought about that. Yeah.
Don't accept authority claims without clear, verifiable evidence. Ask, what is their expertise? Who funds them? Whoa.
There you go.
Cross-check statements with independent research or subject matter experts. Remember that titles and credentials do not guarantee objectivity or truth. There's actually a psychological phenomenon called the halo effect. The audience can look that up. I'm not making it up. I don't make things up. The halo effect is when someone is this perceived authority, whatever they say is gospel.
Yep.
Interesting note on this. This is not my opinion. This is all fact. The more famous a subject matter expert is in a specific field, the less reliable their information.
Because of the limitations of live fire and the restrictions of most live fire ranges, we've realized we have to do things differently, and we want to do things differently. We take a principle-based, integrated, and holistic approach to our training that includes pistol craft, weapons-based combatives, as well as soft self-defense skills and education, designed specifically with the citizen defender in mind, in a way that can be done anywhere by anyone. So how do we do that? What does that look like? It's not really something I can explain to you. It's something I have to show you. So stick with us, and together, we'll make the world a safer place.
Controlled opposition, formal term, manufactured dissent. Whoa, could I tell you some stories about this one? And I'm talking about being there.
Yeah.
Being there when this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And I did my best to expose it while it was happening. Kevin might know what I'm talking about. The layman's terms.
I know.
Fake critics to make real critics look bad. Whoa. Opposing viewpoints are deliberately managed or staged to appear weak or unconvincing. Controlled opposition maintains the illusion of debate while steering the public to a desired conclusion. This technique helps to neutralize real dissent by discrediting authentic opposition.
That's so self-explanatory, I think, at least to me. Like it's.
I was at a very big event that happened almost 4 years ago, a very big event. And immediately I got on my phone and started talking about all of the fake dissent that was there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
They were sticking out like a sore thumb.
To you.
Right? To me. They were sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And the narrative that has been spun around that particular event isn't even close to what I witnessed. And I'm not talking about I was there.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close to what I witnessed, you know? But a lot of people bought it. And it affected my life in a very big way.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I see how effective this is.
Oh, yeah.
So the antidote, identify and expose controlled opposition. What did Todd do that day, right?
Yep.
So the formal term for this is called authenticity screening. And then the layman's phrase for it is spot the fakers and focus on real critics. Look for inconsistent arguments, vague criticism, or people refusing to engage with facts. Real dissent is specific, evidence-based, and encourages critical thinking, not emotional reactions. And expose controlled opposition by pointing out their weak arguments and motives. And you know what's even more interesting about that? Now here's what's happening about that particular day. The evidence somehow all got deleted.
Hmm. How did that
The
happen?
evidence, the evidence against that day all got deleted.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's a coincidence. Come on.
How does that happen?
It's an accident.
They pushed the wrong button. They
Yeah.
pushed the
Yeah.
wrong button.
Control
It
Alt
all
Delete.
got deleted.
Too far. Too far.
It all got deleted. So
Yeah.
weird. And, you know, hasn't it been kind of a reoccurring theme throughout history that things get accidentally, like, you know, I can understand it. Like sometimes I'll be on the computer and everything I've ever created has been deleted all at
Yeah.
once. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Happens
Or
all the
after
time.
World War II, there was book burning. Why was there book burning?
So weird.
So weird. Why did they go and try to destroy facts?
Yeah, how are we gonna, I thought we'd want to verify that stuff. Isn't that so strange? I don't
Well,
know
I
how
mean,
that happened.
I'm reminded so much of like it's really bringing out because I want to try and keep it, self-defense related. So my mind is, in this back burner trying to, where have you seen this in your martial arts? And it's everywhere. Like it's unbelievable, man. Like it's actually crazy, right? When you start thinking about it, because these Mick dojos that are basically just really good business franchise are preying on innocent people who want to have their, let's just say, kids feel safe. So they have to sell them on the idea that with martial arts training, they'll be able to defend themselves.
Yeah,
Right. And it's such a
cognitive illusion.
it's unbelievable. And like even my students, right? Like in my kids program, I have my kids, I have my advanced kids, then I have my adults. In the adults and then self-defense. And then the kids program, like I'm teaching them very basic stuff about self-defense. But it's only once they get to the advanced class, I say, okay, remember what you learned in the basic? Well, now here we're going to open up the door a little bit more. And then in the adult program, we're going to open up quite a bit more. Right. And you hear them and they're like, oh, I could totally defend myself. I'm like, no, you can't. No, you can't. I'm like, I've taught you about your body. I've taught you about proprioception, but I'm not going to lie to you and say that you're going to be good at self-defense now.
Yeah, that's what they do. They sell the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Like that girl that in that video that we watched, right? Who took that You've been training this specific self-defense discipline. It's not really self-defense, and it's from a specific country, right? And she said that, yeah, and she's 5 foot, 4'9", literally 4'9", and 90 pounds. And she said, yeah, I can take a 180-pound man and just throw him on his back, right?
Yeah, I
And that
can pick
didn't
him up and throw him down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? And here's what I want to say to people who are watching. The people who you think are the most credible are the least credible. The people who are the best, who have the best packaging for this stuff, who really sell it well, those are the ones you need to be the most skeptical of because that's what they're really masters of. They're masters of illusion.
Yes. Yes.
And this is the kind of the age that we've been living in, right? So we're talking about mass communication, we're talking about self-defense, we're talking about martial arts, firearms training, or whatever, but it's the age of illusion. And really it's like whoever can lie the best and deceive the best wins.
Yeah.
And it's become acceptable. So when I started IDS, my company, Kevin knows I absolutely refuse. If I have one student but I'm telling them the truth and they're getting a real training, I'm
Yeah.
stoked.
Yeah.
If there's one person that watches me, and that's the only one because they see it and they get it and they want it, I'm stoked because I've got the people who want the real deal.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
refuse, like I was groomed to participate in the mass illusion of all of this, and I refused to do it.
Yeah.
And they
Well,
couldn't believe it.
but it's because that's who both you and I are, is well, I can't say I was always that way, right? Because I was the opposite. But because I was the opposite, I
Yeah.
seen my ways and then I chose to change them. But seeing my ways, guys, like when we talked, I think, in the second point about awareness, right? Is I had to be aware that I was there. And that was a hard pill to swallow. It really, really was. Right. So if you're not there yet, that's okay. If this podcast helps you, that's okay. Right. But it's little by little, right? Are you going to be able to wake up out of the martial arts matrix?
All right,
Oh,
here's
yeah.
the next one.
Just flagged for sure.
Flooding media channels, formal term. Information saturation, chaff tactics. The layman's phrase, drowning people in noise so they can't tell what's real.
Hmm.
An overwhelming amount of content, both real and fake, floods all available channels. People are confused by conflicting details and distracted by irrelevant stories. The sheer volume of information makes it hard for the public to identify the truth.
I got a crazy story about this.
Yeah.
So, for those of you guys who don't know, I just started my own golf Instagram channel and YouTube as well. Make sure you check it out, Kevin Goat Golf. Okay. So I got approached on Instagram. Hey, love your content. Where are you from? That's how they always start, right? So it's these scammers, right? And basically he goes, would you like some followers? And I was like, this is interesting because with my self-defense stuff, we were popular before we built the business and we're trying to catch up. So I was like, sure, let's see what this guy has to offer. Anyways, we go back and forth, right? He ends up being a nice guy. I'm befriending him and things like that. And I say, hey, listen, like, how many bots do you have? And he sent me a picture. And he had an entire wall in his room of cell phone, cell phone, cell phone, cell phone, cell phone, all plugged in. So they're running full power. And I would say it was probably 100 by 50. And that's probably 100 by 75, to be honest. And he's running this operation in his house. And this is how he makes his money, right? For 20 bucks, I'll give you access to all of these accounts. I'll grow to each one, program it in, blah, 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 do a thing, right? I said, man, that's crazy. Like, that's so cool. Right. And he's like, yeah, right. Like, it's pretty awesome. I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm nothing. I am a minion in the entire world of this. He's like, there are places in India that warehouses, like 20,000 square foot warehouses, are full of cell phones because they have different IP addresses of just pushing out the algorithms, either pro or against, right? And now you're starting to see with AI is they're actually fighting each other and there's no human interaction whatsoever. Like it's
Yeah.
unreal. But to actually see it from my own eyes, man, that was something else, man. That was something else.
Yeah. That's the world we're living in now. And so we have to, I think that there's going to be a lot of pushback on this. I do. I think that people are going to I think people are really thirsting for truth.
Yes.
And people are really thirsting for reality, for what's real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which, the antidote to the flooding of the channels is simplify the noise to find the truth. The formal term is information filtering. The layman's phrase, turn off the noise and look for the signal. Focus on the key questions. What happened? What do we know for sure? What doesn't add up? Ignore the irrelevant distractions or speculative content designed to overwhelm you. Keep track of timelines, contradictions, and concrete details that reveal patterns. It's all about pattern recognition,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. All of it. All of it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, essentially what we're talking about is critical thinking.
Yeah.
And we're living in an age right now where critical thinking is shamed. If you're a critical thinker, then you're a bad person because they can't control critical thinkers.
Yes.
And
They
that's
can
what we
try.
want.
They can try.
That's what we want in our businesses. We want our students and the people who follow us, we want them to think for themselves.
Yeah.
And we want all of you to think for yourselves. In fact, be critical about this conversation that we're having today.
Please do. Yeah.
Always feel free to be critical of us too. We want to encourage that.
Yeah, there's
Uh,
quite a
Go
few
ahead.
martial arts instructors that, they post content and things like that. And some of them are very, very well known. I won't use their names. And, when I talk to them, like, how's your social media stuff going? They're like, oh, pretty good. I just post and ghost. And I was like, well, why do you post and ghost? They're like, because I don't want to deal with the comments. I don't want to deal with the critiques. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with that. I'm like, but you're taking it personally. Like, why are you taking it personally? That's that person's point of view. Right. And for me, like when I was starting out, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I knew that if I got controversial comments taking place and I got sub comments to comments, the algorithms would feed it more because now you have two sides fighting each other and it's a topic and the algorithm says this must be important. So it pushes out to further people. So then more videos go viral and things like that. And eventually, hopefully I can make some money. And basically, what I started realizing was some people just can't take criticism at all, right? They
Yeah.
couldn't deal with it, right? They're like, no, I'm just going to put it out there, and the people that love it will love it, and the people that hate it will hate it, and that'll be it. You're an ostrich with the head in the sand, then.
Yeah.
Because you're choosing not to look at that. Like, once I found a perspective, and maybe that will help you guys, is once I found a perspective that negative criticism was a good thing, everything changed. So now, like, when people start going out in the comment section, like, I get out my popcorn, but I engage intellectually. I don't engage emotionally. And there's a massive difference with that because we can still be respectful. We can still have our own points of view. And that's what, Todd just said is, please have your own points of view. Please be critical of our thinking. Please do this. But I hope that we can meet in the middle for something. And for some people, it's just respect each other. You can think what you think. I can think what I think. I don't care. But it just doesn't mean we're going to agree.
Okay. Well, this is good because I don't agree with you.
I know. I know. This is why it's awesome.
I don't agree with you. I think that first of all, I want to say this. I am wide open to feedback and criticism
Yeah.
from the right people.
Yes.
I have from the right people who are qualified to have an opinion. Like for me, an unqualified opinion is not an opinion at all.
Mm.
It's coming from a place of sheer ignorance or malice
Yeah.
or jealousy or just like that's why I hate the comments because I'm like, you're just stupid. And all you're doing is leaving stupid comments and creating more noise, and you have opinions based on things that you have no opinion about. You are just puking Dunning-Kruger all over the place, and you think I'm just supposed to sit here and soak in your puke, right?
Yeah.
Like you're a fucking moron. Like, why do I want to listen to what you have to say? I know I've got real dudes that I go to and I ask them for their opinion, including this guy over there who I disagree with. I'm like, listen, if you don't have a qualified opinion, keep your trap shut and just take it in and listen and consider. Blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you're right. I'm only dedicated
cheeks
44
are
years to
sore.
this. What do I know? I'm
But you
only, you know what
see,
I'm saying? Like,
they've elicited emotional
I only
responses out of me.
interact with world-class people at all times on the cutting edge of this topics, but I'm
Oh.
gonna listen to your bullshit, right? Because your dad's cousin was a cop. Like, what
There
do
you
you
go.
like? Come on, Kevin. You're the idiot, Kevin.
Oh,
And
I
then when it
love it.
starts getting
I
abusive,
love
like
it.
I have a zero tolerance policy in my life for abuse and dysfunction.
You do.
Zero.
You do.
Zero. Ask
Yeah.
my wife. Boom, you're cut off. You're gone. You're out.
Yeah.
So like if I for me, like if I do that, then I'm enabling the problem with the world.
Hmm. To a degree.
No, not to a degree. Right. So now those people think like,
I'm enabling the problem. I'll be the first to admit I'm enabling the problem in order to, well, to be honest, I'm using the matrix. That's what I am.
yeah,
I'm using the qualities of the matrix because if I
you're
can
Agent
escape,
Smith, you're Agent Smith, and I'm Neo.
well, one day we will form together and I will dive into, or you will dive into my belly.
Here, let me give you a self-defense example, right?
Please.
I was doing this demo in a seminar,
Yeah.
and it was a specific demo, and somebody in the class called
Yeah.
bullshit.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay, that's cool. We can go for it.
Yeah.
If you want, we can go for it full force.
Yeah.
We can find out how bullshit it is. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to anticipate what I'm going to do. Where in
Yeah.
reality,
You wouldn't have that. Yeah.
you wouldn't have that luxury at all because I know how to set things up, right? But I'm going to give you the luxury of letting you know this is the exact move that I'm going to do. I
Yeah.
want you to write down on this piece of paper that you're giving Todd Fossey permission to use full force.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I headbutt you as hard as I can, and I take you to the ground and I ground and pound you for 25 seconds straight,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you have it written down with witnesses around here that you gave me permission. Or if you are okay with me loading my pistol with a live round so
Yeah.
I can shoot you in the face, I think that's how ridiculous it gets. But you're going to be okay because you know better, right? Like it's just like what, like I'm being mild right now, right?
I
Because,
know. I know.
and
This
this
is
is how I
so
feel about
awesome.
this. That's why also why we're talking about this with mass communication too, because when I see these mass communication techniques go, I just go, right? Or certain social media influencers who use the same techniques. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
like how much more obvious can you be?
Yeah. Yeah.
But everyone just goes along with it. Listen, hold on. It's a well-known fact, and everybody at home can look up everything that I'm saying. Okay. That somewhere between 85 to 90% of the population never thinks critically.
Wow.
And
Wow.
approximately 20% of the population make their decisions solely based on consensus and peer pressure.
Hmm. Those are some crazy. I wonder what those numbers would have been in, say, 1938 before the war. I wonder if it would have been way different. And then even say before World War One.
Good question. Well, they
It's
used to teach critical thinking in schools,
yeah, yeah,
and that all changed, right?
yeah.
All right, the next one. The next one. This is one of my favorites.
The last one was it?
Pre-plans, pre-planned solutions rolled out rapidly. Whoa, pre-planned solutions. So the antidote to that one is question the motives behind the solutions. The
Yes.
formal term is policy and motive analysis. Ask who benefits from the fix. Can I at least talk about it a little bit? Like in the sorry, I'm messing with my notes here. In the worlds of our firearms training.
Yes. Oh yeah, that should work. That should
Okay,
work.
so the types of violent crimes that the firearms training world rolls out as a type of violent crimes that you're going to be faced with are
Yeah,
almost non-existent in reality.
yeah, yeah,
Like they just create this problem so that so that the public can perceive as though they have the solution to the problem. Where in reality, that's not the case at all. Like I could go on for hours. Kevin knows this. Like I just go off for hours right? I'm like, well, I just ask him, like, well, when does that happen?
Yeah.
Like, how much time do you want me to, like, I'm not saying it's never happened in the history of
Yeah.
the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, you know what I
The
mean? And like, how much
probability
time
is
do you really
there,
think
but
that we should dedicate to that? Seriously?
all of it, Todd. Everything else doesn't matter. Real world data doesn't matter. I just want to look badass on camera.
Or have cool gear and toys and,
Yeah,
and,
because I'm sponsored and I need to.
do,
Maybe that's why I'm not sponsored yet,
and
bro.
cosplay and, you know what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, there's one of my favorites is, this one douchebag who's in the firearms training world, right?
Yeah.
And he has all these pictures of himself, like with a big suppressor on a pistol. He's wearing full kit and he's got comms on and a helmet in a smoky room. And
Oh
then
my.
he writes a blog and it says, "Welcome to the real world." And I'm like, can you please provide me with the verifiable data that who this is the real world for exactly? Next one. Polarization of the public. Formal term. Divide and conquer. Layman phrase. Turning people against each other. The narrative is designed to create conflict between opposing groups. Political, social, cultural. Public debate shifts from questioning the event to fighting each other over who's right.
Yes.
Polarized, polarization distracts from critical analysis and weakens the collective resistance.
Nice. Love it. Love it.
The antidote: resist polarization by seeking common ground. Formal term: unity-based critical dialogue. Layman phrase rather: talk to each other, not past each other.
Right.
Engage with people across opposing viewpoints
Yeah.
who focus on shared goals and values. Avoid emotional debates and stick to evidence, logic, and respectful discussion.
Nice.
Recognize polarization as a tactic to divide and weaken collective critical thinking.
Beautiful. Love it. Love it. I actually did this talk with my kids' classes this week. We I teach Miguel Rodriguez's Four Agreements, and we were talking about never make assumptions. So I would hold up something, I would say, "This is green," and all the kids are like, "No, no." I'm like, "Who thinks it's green?" And everyone's just like, and they're like, "No, I'm not putting my hand up. I'm not putting my hand up." Like, "This is green. Agree with me. This is green." And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, raise your hand. What color is it to you?" And the kids raise their hand. They're like, "It's yellow. It's obviously yellow. It's yellow. It's yellow." Right. And I was like, "Who thinks I'm right and who thinks they're wrong?" Right. And everyone's like, "Well, you're wrong, Sifu. You're wrong." And I was like, "Who's my critical thinkers in the class? Who's going to ask a question? Who's going to find out a little more information about my perspective?" And then one of the senior students raises their hand and they say, "Sifu," they're like, "Why do you think it's green?" I was like, "Well, when I look at it, it's green." And they're like, "Well, when I look at it, it's yellow." And I say, "Well, did you know I'm colorblind?" And now all of a sudden, all the kids in the class are like, "Oh," right. And I was like, "That's what starts wars, you guys. You think you're right. You think I'm wrong, but you haven't come from my point of view yet. You haven't asked me. We haven't asked each other. We've simply just stated what our ego believes is to be true." Right. And if that can just open up some kids' minds to the idea of critical thinking, then I feel very happy.
Good.
But
There you go. Defending the mind is a part of self-defense.
it is.
Here's the last one. Use of symbolism and subliminal messaging. Formal term: Semiotics and subliminal priming, layman's phrase, hiding messages in plain sight to shape perception.
Mm.
Symbols, colors, slogans, or images are used to convey deeper meanings or reinforce narratives. Subliminal cues are designed to influence thoughts without conscious awareness. These tactics reinforce emotional connections or trigger subconscious associations over time. This is actually where my formal training, where I specialize within this formal training, is I was formally trained to do this part.
Interesting. Interesting.
The antidote: break symbolism and subliminal influence with awareness. So this would be subliminal deconstruction. The
Yeah.
layman's phrase: notice the hidden message so they lose power. Pay attention to reoccurring symbols, colors, or phrases and ask what they are designed to evoke. Decode subliminal cues by researching their origins and meanings. Once aware, these tactics lose their subtle influence. Conscious recognition breaks the spell. So, if any of you watching at home have ever noticed certain ways that Todd Fossey communicates on social media, and how
Mm.
what Todd Fossey's rhetoric is like and how it does it, that's exactly what I'm doing to break the spell and the programming across many things, but especially in the self-defense and even more so in the firearms training world. They have the
Mm.
firearms training world has people in a spell that have people indoctrinated and
Yeah.
brainwashed into
Yeah.
seeing things a very specific way.
Yeah.
And what Todd Fossey is doing is breaking through and dispelling, right, that programming in favor of reality.
Mm.
Now they'll call it reality, and they'll use many of these tactics, but I'll do it across all different kinds of things. And usually I'll do it. Kevin and our friends on social media, like I'll usually ask questions,
Yes.
and the questions get people asking, well, why this and why that? So it's easier for them to come to their own conclusion versus me pointing it out. Trust me, as a person who's trained to brainwash people, it's much easier to brainwash people than to convince people that they've been brainwashed.
Yes.
Because the name of the game is shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
So when you're waking up to some of these things that we've been talking about and you're eager to start sharing it with other people, no, they're probably going to push back.
Yeah.
Right? Just like Morpheus said in the Matrix, right? They will fight to defend the very system that's designed to enslave them.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So as weird things are happening, things flying around and up there, and we're looking around and wondering what it is, and all the narratives and all of this stuff is present. In fact, those things themselves it's called archetypal symbolism.
Mm.
And so what the archetypal symbolism is the language of the art of the unconscious is and are archetypal symbols. That's how the unconscious communicates, is through symbols.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's what they do, is they'll associate their narratives, and they'll attach their narratives to this symbolism, because
Mm.
that's what the unconscious sees. That's what the unconscious interacts with, are these symbols.
Do you think that comes back to, again, like the manipulation of the child
It,
ego, right?
it's
Like
it's called subvert. I won't use the full term here
okay.
for reasons, but
Yeah.
it's called subversive something.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
subverting conscious awareness of what's happening.
Yeah. Because it, like, as a child, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're the expert, right? Is L's or corners, circles, and squares, right? Like those are the main things that we see when we're a child before color comes in, or we're able to actually define when our vision comes into place, right? Um, I had one drunken kung fu master say, I'll throw symbols at you and the symbol will distract you enough that it will actually hide my punch. Right.
Oh,
And just different things like that. And I was like, oh, that's a little hokey pokey. Right. But I wonder if there's actually something to it now.
put your whole self in and you turn it all around.
Yeah, I expected you to do this the whole time. I was like, oh,
No,
oh
no,
no.
I don't do that. But that's a big conversation, and it takes many years to understand how to employ this use of archetypal symbolism. And you can also do it in verbal and nonverbal narratives, and it's used in movies all the time, and television and advertising. There's masterful
Yeah,
at it, and the media is too, and now social media. There are people within our community who use it as well.
yeah,
But
yeah.
just look at the name of their business, right? And then ask yourself, well, that's usually an archetypal symbol like a
Mm.
snake or a dagger, right? Things like that. Those are archetypal symbols.
Oh, oh, the audience would just love to have like background images or the zoom free without editing.
But I'm being serious.
I know. It's just it's
Look all
so
across our
mind
industry and you'll
blowing
see the use of these archetypal symbols. And then
everywhere.
so find out what's the name of the business and what type of their slogan. What's
Yeah,
their logo? Is that
yeah.
what they really do? What's the name of the class? What's the name of the move? What's the name? What is that what they actually do? Are they just conflating through the use of these forms of manipulation?
Yeah. Oh
You
man,
know?
I'm reminded of so many martial art
If
books.
you guys have been recognizing these things that we've been talking about in real life and in reality in different ways, leave a comment below and let us what you think.
Yeah.
I won't look at it, but
If he
but
does
Kevin
and he
will.
disagrees, just you wait. You're gonna get an
No,
ear.
I do look sometimes. I do look sometimes, and there is value in it sometimes. But
Yeah.
I already said how I feel about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do agree slightly. Gotcha, bitch.
You don't want me to use my Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi mind
Oh,
tricks.
you
Because
can't enter
I'll
this
make you
brain, bro.
swallow your own tongue if I
You
feel like
can't
it.
enter this brain. Do you know how many walls of trust issues I have?
You don't know how skilled I am at getting past those walls.
Oh, oh, there we go. We have the
That's the
true
thing though.
Neo.
But in
Look at
all
all my
seriousness though,
books.
like I use those skills against people who use those skills.
Yeah, yeah.
I refuse to use them to manipulate. I
I agree.
refuse.
I agree. It was funny when you and I first talked about this when we had met at the start of this year. Um, it was really cool because there were some things like obviously I'm going to self-reflect. Obviously, I'm going to look at myself. Obviously, I'm going to be like, shit, like, am I doing these things? Right. And I think one of the coolest things was it was like, there's things that I'm doing and there's reasons why certain videos had gone viral. And I tried to figure it out. And I love algorithms and ones and zeros. And okay, we have to edit here and cut this out and do this and do this. But one of the big ones that actually I don't really do a lot of anymore, and maybe it's because of you, asshole, but we'll find out, um, was I used to say, like, what would you do? Right. And I think that was it was just something that I actually just questioned. It was something that I was curious and I wanted to know the answer to that. So I wanted other people to be able to relate to that, right? What would you do if somebody put you in a headlock, right? Like that video is like cresting like 200 million now. Like it's insane, right?
Wow.
And it's like, but a lot of people wouldn't know what to do. So they watched it. Right. And then it was okay. Well, what would you do here? And what would you do here? But then I started just repeating it so much. I'm like, I'm just saying, what would you do? Right. Like, let's actually give people information. Let's help them out. And then you were like, you told me that I'm like, damn, I'm manipulating them and I didn't even know it.
Yeah. And it's a fair question. It's good to ask questions, but yeah, I appreciate that about you, that it's sort of like you can use these techniques. It's like having a weapon in a way, right? Like you can use these techniques for good, or you can use these techniques for bad,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And certain people in our industry, when they get called out for using these techniques, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I'm just right. Whereas Kevin goes, "Oh, I have to take a look at myself, right?" No, that like that. Well, I've got my plausible deniability, and I like because like I like because we didn't know that's what you're gonna say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they just assume they're the smartest guy in the world, and nobody can figure them out, and they're like, there's no template for them because they're so unique,
Yeah.
right?
Go watch our narcissist episode and you'll figure all that out.
Yeah. Yeah, so I
Pretty
hope
good
that
one.
the
I've got a
people at home,
really,
like, I hope that the people at home have got something out of this and go back
yeah.
and watch it or take some notes and write like I do, right? And write them down and use it as a filter as you go through life because they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. And we are now targeted through what's called psychographics. It's not even demographics. They know exactly what messaging you need to hear, what they want you to hear, and what you need to hear. And those messages are specifically crafted for you
Yeah.
now,
But it's
right?
AI. And it's so great because I can just click on this ad that just magically showed up for the exact thing I was just talking about with my girlfriend. And all of a sudden, like, I don't know, man, it's insane. That shit scares me more than anything.
Yeah. So we need to defend our mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to protect our mind and we want to be in pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
And that's the world depends on that. With
Yeah.
that, with everything that we do in martial arts and self-defense and firearms training and combatives or whatever, to the relationships that we're in, everything that we're pursuing, the goal is the pursuit of truth. No one
Yeah.
understands all truth, but to authentically pursue the truth, that's the goal.
Yeah.
And let's make it unacceptable to pursue anything other than that.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, to me, that's being free, right? And I think it's such an important thing that at least I feel like is being stripped away from me and my fellow Canadians, right? And it's little by little and step by step because if they push two steps forward and you push back and they go one back, they're still one up, right? And in self-defense, I don't like taking any hits, right? That's actual defending myself, right? And when it comes down to it, like you're going to take some hits, you're going to have to know how to deal with those hits. But if we can prevent them, if we can be prepared, if we can do critical thinking, if we can actually spend some time off of our doom scrolling and into some research, right? There's a lot that we can do, right? And it doesn't mean you're going to find all the solutions. It takes hours and relentless
One of the things
hours.
there's something in these techniques. It's called overload. And here's what happens if I can give people just a general concept around how overload makes us suggestible to these messages.
Okay.
Um, when we're overloaded with stimuli, it disorganizes what's called our critical function. And that allows messages to bypass the critical mind.
Mm,
So it literally downloads into the unconscious no matter what you try to do.
wow.
I know people within certain intelligence groups, let's put three-letter groups, who will
Yeah.
not be in the same room as a TV.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and so there are things that so the noise that we've been talking about, the overwhelm, all of, right, and even all of the mixed messages, that creates overload for you because it's like this. It's like if you have too many apps running on your laptop, what happens? It crashes and it makes it more susceptible to being hacked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's happening with your mind. Your mind is being overwhelmed with information so that it can be hacked, but
Yeah.
through these subversive methods. Okay. Some of these are more overt than covert, but some are going to be covert and subversive. So to
Yeah.
do things like turn it off for a while, get away from the noise,
Yeah.
go outside,
Yeah.
take a walk, sit by the fire, sit with a friend, a real friend in person, and
Yeah.
have real, true, meaningful interactions, and
Yeah.
and have dialogue and ask critical questions and always ask why.
Yeah.
That's the important thing, and become an observer, an independent observer.
Yeah.
We are suggestible to our environment. In our brain, 70% of our neurons are what are called reflective and mirroring neurons. That means they will automatically emulate and imitate that's what we're exposed to. So like going to another part of the world for a while and you start to adopt their accent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's how this works. And so we want to make sure that we're surrounding ourselves with the right environment and the right kind of people and eliminating the noise
Yes.
so
Yes.
that we can see more clearly the world that is happening around us so that we can make decisions that are consistent with what is truthful and right and just and free and independent,
Yeah.
those types of things. And it's true also of the martial arts world.
Mhm.
Though a lot of the modalities that are used are designed to form and create cults and to hijack your mind and your wallet and your time and your energy, right?
Yeah.
It's entrapment in different ways and to steer you in certain directions and things like that. So eat healthy and do all those right things that Kevin and I have talked about so much, and that will help you.
Yeah.
And then as it helps you, that will help everyone else around you.
That's the goal. That's the goal, right? It's a pretty amazing thing what one person can do and how much that influence can be there. And as you start changing and you start, because just quickly put, like I was never like this, guys, right? I was a sheep, even though my last name is Goat, right? And I woke up, right? And when I woke up, I started questioning things that I never questioned before. And when I started doing that, it was tough. As the Buddhists say, through suffering, we understand happiness. I suffered a lot. And in the process of suffering, I learned a lot about myself and I learned a lot about how and who I want to surround myself with, right? Who do I want to be? How do I want to react? Because when I came out of the military, I was a very angry person, very angry, angry person. I never seen action, I never seen combat. I just had to bury my friends. And it took a long time to get over that. It took a long time to be able to figure it out. I've put, well, now thousands of hours into psychological help to help me better understand myself, to help me better understand I am the cause of my life. I take ownership, I take responsibility.
Yes.
It always came back to me. So whether it was good or bad, it's because of something that I'm doing. So I stopped blaming people. And then that's why I teach these things, right? Because
That's the point.
yeah,
When you take agency, you don't follow the herd.
yeah,
You know, for those at home, I'm a devout follower of Jesus Christ, and what Jesus did was to dispel the myths and lies
mm,
in the world,
mm,
and led people to the truth in a wide variety of different ways.
yeah,
And so this has been around, right? This has been around for quite some time. And to be in pursuit of the truth is challenging. It's difficult.
yeah.
As Jordan Peterson would say, at least there's one good Canadian out there, right? If when you
Hopefully,
pursue the truth, be prepared because you're going to have the adventure of a lifetime.
yeah, yeah,
And that's true. That's another axiom. That's a truth. That's if there's anything I've learned over the last 10 years, well, there's two. One, don't cast your pearls before swine because
mm,
they'll just turn and attack you.
Yeah.
And two, when you pursue the truth at all costs, your life will become an adventure. And that's I think a great way to look at it, because it's not all positive, meaning it's not all fun,
Yeah.
right? It's not all fun and games. But hey, man, I want to live a life of adventure, right?
I just want to live
And
a life, like a real life, not playing video games all day, not doing this,
yeah,
interacting with people, growing. Spiritual growth is everything. And spiritual growth for me first started off with physical growth, right? And it's amazing. It's amazing. Through all the hardships I've been through, I personally don't believe in regret, but through all the hardships I've been through, once I got to a point where I felt happy, I understood why I went through all those things. And it gave me the perspective that now when I go through something hard or difficult, I just give it gratitude right away, even though I don't understand it.
yeah,
I give it
yeah.
gratitude and I'm grateful for the experience because it's teaching me something, right? And it's very hard to see that. It's so easy to see it in hindsight, but in my life, I've suffered a lot, a lot. And being able to look back now, it's easy to be like, that's why I suffered. But now the goal for me is in the middle, in the midst of the suffering, can I actually find gratitude then? Can I actually find a perspective? Can I find positivity? Right? I mean, we all went through a lot, but being a business owner over the last 4 years and having my business shut down again and again and again and again, and then told I could do this, and then told I can't do this, and told I could do this, it opened up my eyes to whole new things. And a lot of people failed, a lot of people suffered, and it was a really messed up time. Um, but we can save that for another day. So
I think that's I mean, for me, that's the motive behind having this conversation today.
yeah,
But
part of
because that's how we push through to the other side, and we start to usher in a whole new paradigm for martial arts,
yeah,
for firearms training, for combatives, a whole new paradigm. It's a new renaissance that's focused on truth,
yes,
focused on reality, but
yes,
right, that we're making it a point to do that. And as we pursue that, we give others permission to do the same. It takes courage. It takes strength.
does.
It's not for the faint of heart to pursue the truth and to be awake,
Yeah,
right? Um, you don't want to go back in the matrix.
yeah. Well, you
You don't
can't
want you don't
anymore.
want to be the
You
you don't want to
can't.
be the guy that says, I don't want to remember nothing, right? Like once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't. Yeah,
And
it's
and
something.
so and so that's how we win.
Yeah.
And that's how we prevent ourselves from ever having to use the skills that we have.
Mm, nice. Yeah.
I prefer to live in a I'm a I my industry, my business revolves around firearms. And I want to live in a world where we say, I can't believe that such a word ever existed. But
Wow.
we don't live in that world. So we want to find a way to use it for us instead of to have it work against us.
Yeah. Well, brother, that was fun. Much appreciated as always with your expertise and sharing a little bit more about, to the audience about who you used to be and the things you used to do and how it's helped you help others. That was really cool. Really cool. I appreciate that. So awesome. Where can people find you if they want to train with you?
Yes, you can check me out on social media, Integrative Defense Strategies, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all over the place. Um, then online, we have online community. It's really cool at school,
Nice.
skool.com/IDS. Super cool community there with online courses and live streaming stuff and chats where we're all communicating with each other. It's a cool forum there.
Sweet.
And then idscitizendefender.com, also more online training content available there. And if those you're interested in becoming a certified instructor in my program, that website is thisidids.com. Thank you.
Right on. Right on. You're very welcome. Make sure to check it out, Self-Defense Kevin Goat or at Self-Defense Goat. Make sure to check out our Shopify store, just my store at selfdefensegoat.ca. Buy some sweet swag, help support me so we can keep this stuff going and keep providing content for you guys. Other than that, everybody, stay safe out there. The world is a crazy place right now, right? So be aware, be active, be vigilant, be alert, be everything you need to be to stay safe. Stay safe, everybody.